Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Funnel Trade. A scant 1/12 of the way to Christmas is what did I buy in January of 2025. Now, coming off of Black Friday, where I spent very heavily, and the early Christmas season into January, I only picked up one type of thing this month, and I had shared it with my patrons, had some discussions with some of them in private messages. Yes, Japanese Pokemon, yes. I have been wanting to get into this for quite a while now. And, well, there have been a lot of problems over time. So, there have been various hype cycles of Japanese Pokemon in the US, and they've come and gone, died down, ebbed and waned. And one of the big issues is that when Japanese Pokemon gets really hot, it gets way hotter than English Pokemon does in the US. And so the number of scams and counterfeits and reseals and everything else out there is just unbelievable when the Japanese Pokemon market gets hot. And I've been trying for 2 or 3 years to get into this, to find good sources that were reliable, that I could trust. And I think I've finally done it. Now, yes, there's some risk to it, but I'm fairly confident with the source I have now. And the other thing is, when you start buying stuff like this and you start handling it more and you start seeing, oh, what do the seals look like? How do they compare to each other? What does the plastic feel like? You get pretty decent at least feeling out the box initially and saying, okay, this looks at least pretty good. It passes the early sniff test. So I feel pretty confident that over time I'll get more, let's say, I'll get satisfied with my ability to be happy that these are not tampered with or anything like that. So, as far as prices I paid for this, I had to pay market price. There are no favorable prices on this. With a lot of things over the last 4 years, I've been able to build relationships where I typically get anywhere from 10 to 25% discounts off of market price. On this, nope, nothing like that. So, historically, there's been very little of this that comes into the US. And again, that ebbs and wanes over time. And, I think that over the long term, we're going to see kind of a shift in the way that Japanese Pokemon cards are consumed. Now, there's already a very small, very loyal fan base of Japanese Pokemon. It's collectors who believe that the Japanese language product is the real Pokemon and that that's what they want to collect because, of course, the Japanese sets come out in Japan and then the English sets piggyback off of that, combining select cards from a couple different Japanese releases into what eventually becomes the English releases. Now, we've had collectors kind of start latching onto this more and more in the US, in the English market, in the last few years. Now, I think that over time, more and more of those US based collectors are going to start seeing Japanese Pokemon as just a normal part of collecting Pokemon. It'll go along with their English products and they'll collect select Japanese cards. I know one thing that's already popular, if you go and look on some of the Pokemon TCG subreddits, is people will find their favorite English Pokemon cards and then they'll acquire the Japanese equivalent card. Typically, it has the same art and then it just has the Japanese lettering on it. So, over time, I think more and more collectors are going to start to see Japanese Pokemon as just a regular thing that they want to acquire. And that's going to ramp up, but it's going to lag actually being able to get these boxes. And so I think there's going to be a large mismatch in the future in between the demand for these boxes and the supply for them. Now, these for me are long-term holds. They're not something that I'm currently planning to make available to my patrons. Of course, I'm always working with the various suppliers that I work with to try to acquire steady supply of a reasonable amount of this kind of thing. But again, I've been asking intermittently for a couple of years now and just can never come up with anything that I feel confident enough in. So, looking out at Sword and Shield Japanese boxes, which, are now 2 to 5 years old, they've appreciated anywhere from 50% to 1200% so far. So, I mostly in a market, you are just betting that there is going to be an increasing mismatch between supply and demand. If we go back to 1997 or whenever Stronghold was released in Magic, the mismatch between supply and demand on sealed booster boxes of Stronghold back then was not very big. Very, very small mismatch. I mean, you could walk into a card store and you could walk out with a sealed booster box of Stronghold for about $70. But if you look out today, a sealed booster box of Stronghold is going to cost you somewhere $5, 6, 7, $8,000 because there is a much greater demand than there is supply. And so I'm not trying to pin down the specifics of how big do I think this market will be, how much do I think it will grow. I simply think that the boxes you can buy currently of Japanese Pokemon at regular retail prices near to release are going to be much, much, much more in desire in the future compared to the amount that people put back in closets and hold until that time. So more widely in the market right now, the Edgar Markov card from Innistrad Remastered, the price on that is starting to slip. The last 4 completed eBay sales of that card were all under $3,000. Several of those were auctions, where we do expect the actual price to be lower than a buy it now because, hey, you got to compete with other people. But the last 4 sales have all been under $3,000 when about the first dozen sales of that card that we saw between TCG Player and eBay were all at $3,500, $3,400, $3,600 kind of price point. Going into February, we've got 2 weeks until Aether Drift comes out. Collector boxes of that right now are sitting at $275. Hopefully you came along with me back in December when I was telling folks to pick them up in the $190 to $200 range and giving links to that. How do I think that set's going to do? I think it'll do fine. I think the collector boxes will do fine. It looks like the attitude towards it is improving. Of course, the attitude towards every single product of every release of every game always starts out terrible and can only improve. It's just a matter of how much it improves over time. I think Aether Drift will do fine. Will the boxes come down? Yeah, maybe they'll come down to $250, $240. I don't think we're going to see $200 on them again. And I think it's also a possibility that they hit $300 before they release. Now, I think it's more likely they'll come down to $260 than that they'll go up $15 the other direction to $290. I'll say that. I think there may be a little overrun on the price right now. For my patrons, sealed sale number 10 is coming this upcoming Thursday, February 6th. We're going to have Modern Horizons 2 collector boxes between $20 and $30 off of the market price. I'll be offering quantities from a single box all the way up to factory sealed master cases. Double box if you want to buy those, if you're interested in those kind of sales. Join the Patreon. It's $20 a month and you get in on that and a whole lot other stuff. So things are going great with the business right now. January was my 4th best month ever in terms of total revenue. I ran 2 sales and both of those did good. So very happy, very excited to finally find some Japanese Pokemon that I'm confident to purchase. I'll keep trying to find more of it for my patrons so that I can pass on the typical kinds of deals I get to them. We'll see how it goes. Let me know if you got any interesting thing going on, any great deals you found, what you bought this month. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.